Hey guys, so here I want to talk to you all about tension, and more specifically, muscular tension. Now, at times, some of us may have far more tension in our muscles than we may want, and at other times, we may be looking to have a bit more tension depending on whatever strenuous thing that we're looking to do. Well, the great news is that all of us have reflexes within us that, depending on what we do or not do at different places of our body, we can either dial up the muscular tension in our body, giving us more and more access to our full muscular potential, or we can dial down muscular tension, allowing us to have more relaxation and more freedom to move throughout our body. So what I'm going to go through in this video are 3 different places in the body that, depending on what you do or do not do at those places, will either elicit an increase in muscular tension or a decrease in muscular tension. And by learning how to do these things that we all have access to and incorporate it into whatever sort of exercise or mobility routines that you already have, you'll be able to be far more effective than you may have been able to up until this point. Now, these 3 places of the body that we're going to touch on come down to what you do at your hands, what you do at your face, and what you do with your breath. All right, so why exactly does whatever is happening at your hands have such an effect on muscular tension? Well, if we were to look at the way in which our brains are organized in terms of the density and distribution of both sensory neurons within our brain as well as the motor neurons within our brain, we would see that by and large our brain perceives us to be mainly face and hands. What does that mean? That means that you've got the most nerve endings dedicated to both feeling and controlling your face and your hands. And the effect is that whatever you end up doing at your face or your hands has a reflection, has this sort of irradiation is the term, throughout our body. So if there's an increase in tension at the hands or at your face, then you're going to have an increase in bodily tension. So here we're specifically talking about the hands. And so what you can do is use this to your advantage. It is well understood that if you clench your fist, the harder that you squeeze your fist, the harder that your rotator cuff will fire, and with that, your core fire as well. And this is really useful because, well, if you're going to grab something hard, it's very helpful for your shoulder to grab hard a hold of you and you to grab hold of yourself. So the more that you are able to really engage a fist, whenever you're doing something strenuous, you will then get access to more and more of your full bodily potential of strength. The opposite is also true, that if you want to diminish bodily tension, you've got to relax your hands and shake them on out. And this is something that we will see high-end, world-class athletes do very regularly, especially when it comes to any explosive, power, speed-based events. They need to be very relaxed in order to be as fast and as explosive as they're looking to be. And so you will see them very regularly shaking out their hands and their legs on the sidelines as they're preparing for whatever event that they're about to do. Any of us can use this to our advantage. In general, if you want to increase muscular tension, you squeeze and engage your hand more. And if you want to diminish it, then you want to minimize hand tension. And at times, you may actually have to shake it out. So if you're doing a general workout, if you're having to power through the movement, whether it's a deadlift or whether it's a press or anything, you squeeze the handles that you're holding, whether it's a kettlebell, dumbbell, or barbell, squeeze it harder as you are trying to drive through the sticking point. You will get access to a greater amount of strength. On the other hand, if you're trying to recover in between sets, in between exercises, you want to shake out the tension in your hand to allow your body to relax, to recover for the next effort, for the next set, for the next interval. So this is something that's very easy for any of us to be able to just incorporate into what you're already doing. Alongside that, if you're looking to increase your mobility, if you're looking to move into different ranges, At times, it's going to be helpful to relax the hands, to relax your body into those ranges. And other times, what you're doing at the hand can either aid or work against you moving into those ranges. Now, the example is that when a hand fully extends, that is a lot of extensor tone. So a lot of the muscles at your backside will engage when fingers extend fully. Now you can use this when you're trying to reach your hands up and overhead and behind your back to actually fan your hands out fully within those movements is very helpful to relax the front of your body and to engage muscles in the back of your body that need to help carry you into those ranges. So you can use that to advantage with just general mobility movements, anything that you may be looking to get further into. On the other hand, if you're looking to curl yourself in more, closing the hands, curling that in is going to be helpful. What can come out is some folks that have a hard time flexing their body, reaching for their toes is a great example. They may have hands that are very tense, like so, within that motion. By no means is that the only thing going on, but that is something to be aware of, is general hand tension when you're taking anything on. And it's not always just general relaxation that's going to be helpful. You can sometimes couple flexing your hands with the flexion of the movement or extending the hands with the extension of the movement, depending on whatever it is that you're looking to achieve. Now, beyond your hands, we also have some effects at our face. Depending on what we are doing or not doing at our face can have an enormous effect on body-wide muscular tension. Now, there's 3 different places that we can look at when it comes to a face. And one is what you're doing at your eyes. The other is what you're doing at your jaw and mouth in general. And the third would be your facial expression as a whole. In terms of the eyes, it's good to keep in mind that where you direct your gaze, your body will then attune itself as well towards. Now, it's not like the brain and the body are all that separate. They're hugely incorporated, but our eyes are literally an outgrowth of our brain, and where we direct our visual attention will also direct our postural tone. If you're looking to increase bodily tension and really focus it on a certain thing that you're doing, you will do best to burn a hole in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. An example of this would be, let's say you're trying to lift a very heavy weight. You want to set your gaze in the direction. At times it's relative forward, at times you need to be looking up depending on the technique and how advanced you are with this movement. You want to burn your gaze. You want to burn a hole in whatever you're looking at. Do not let it wander. Fix that gaze. And what that's going to do is be able to set your postural tone and to really, really increase overall just neural drive by honing in. On the other hand, if you want to decrease bodily tension, you don't want to necessarily have a focal focus. You want to let it broaden out. And this is easiest to first learn how to do by looking out into a wide open area, seeing it, being able to sight the horizon, being able to sight, say, a tree line, or if you're like hiking and you can see a bit more of a mountainside, or if you're at the ocean or a beach and you can see out for a distance. Being able to sight something as a whole and broaden out your view, that reduces, that diminishes bodily tension, and it goes from being very focused to soften, to allow you to interact within your environment. So that is one way in which you can use your gaze in order to direct bodily tone. Focus it to increase, broaden it out to decrease muscular tension. The other thing to keep in mind is similarly with the hands, where extending will cause more extension tone and flexing, grasping causes a bit more of a flexion tone of the body. Where you direct your gaze will also change the tone in your body. And gymnasts and Olympic lifters have used this for many, many years. And the general rule would be, if you look up, then the muscles of the front of your body will relax and the back of your body will increase their tone. If you look down, then the muscles of the front of your body will engage and the muscles of the back of your body will relax. And so you can use this to your advantage if you're trying to go further into any movement. If you are trying to open up the front of your body by reaching overhead and reaching back, it is very important for you to also look up while you are doing it, and that will reflexively allow the front of your body to let go. That's not the only thing that needs to happen, but that's an enormous thing that needs to be present to help that. Also, if you're looking to, say, curl more inward, that example of reaching for your toes, you want to actually look to where you're reaching. Look down. Look in the direction of your reach. Get your eyes to gaze down towards your toes as you're reaching to them. And you'll find that your backside actually lets go. With that, the front will actually tone up. Something has to work while you're doing it. But this is one way in which you can begin to recognize that your gaze, the direction of it, the intention of it, when you're doing any movement can either work for you or against you, depending on what you're looking to achieve. Now, another place at your face that will have an enormous impact on bodily tension, on muscular tension, is what you do at your jaw. Your jaw is a huge sensory part of the body. It's not just there in order to chew and grind up food, it's also there to help perceive where your body is shifting underneath your head, and it can also be a significant place that we will augment bodily tone. The general rule with your jaw is very similar to what's going on with your hands. The more that you clench, bodily tone, bodily tension will go through the roof. And there's excellent research to demonstrate that when you clench your teeth, reflexes go through the roof. You can actually grip harder, you can actually squat more weight, you can actually jump higher for one rep, not multiple because you're not springing, you just have access to greater tension with a clench. On the other hand, when you let the jaw go and teeth are not touching, then you have a diminished bodily tone, then you have reduced muscular tension. And so this can be incorporated with what you're doing at your hands, with what you're doing with facial tension. However, just simply knowing that your clench can either work for you or against you, depending on whether you want an increase in muscular tone or a decrease in muscular tone, is something that any of us can use to our advantage. Now, the third factor when it comes to your face is your facial expression as a whole. And this is where we can talk about, on one side, laughing, smiling, and on the other side, game face. And in general, this is something that all of us can appreciate because we may have experienced it anyway. In general, if you laugh, if you smile, and absolutely if you laugh, this tends to elicit body-wide relaxation for a short period of time. So if you have a genuine laugh, then what will happen is you cannot produce as high amount of muscular tension for just a short period. This can work against folks because at times people may laugh when they're nervous, and it can actually sabotage them if they're trying to do something that's physically strenuous. So knowing that and being able to wrangle that in and have a game face, a serious face, that's going to allow you to have access to as much muscular tension as you may want. On the other hand, if you're walking around with a little bit too much facial tension, a little too serious, well, body-wise, you're going to have a bit higher muscular tension walking around with you. So recognizing that the tension throughout your face and the general affect that you may be expressing has an effect on bodily tension, on muscular tension, you can either make that work for you or against you. So in general, you don't necessarily have to force laughter, but learning how to diminish facial tension, how to let it go, how to soften your face when you're looking to have more access to flexibility, to be able to move into bigger ranges, to be able to let muscular tension go. You couple that with your hands letting go, reducing that facial tension, you're going to have the best chance at letting go, at diminishing muscular tension, and also moving into different ranges. On the other hand, if you're trying to lift a very heavy weight, and maybe even a PR, don't smile. With the hands, we got to grip the heck out of it, but you got to really dial in not just the gaze, but you've also got to be able to have a very, very serious face while you're doing it. Now, the third and final place in the body that we can use, that all of us have access to in order to either increase muscular tension or decrease muscular tension, is what we're doing with our breath. Now, a lot has been spoken about in terms of what one can do with their breath, and it can be a bit overwhelming, so I'm going to keep this very, very simple. By and large, an inhale is excitatory and an exhale is inhibitory. What that means is an inhale causes more alertness, excitation of the nervous system, of our brain, of our body in general, and an exhale, more relaxation. Muscles get inhibited when there's a full exhale. This is happening ideally with every breath that we take, a little bit up and a little bit down, and it can be amplified if there's a very large breath in. That will cause more excitation, especially if you do a bunch of them, and you can steer your body to relax if there's a full exhale, and especially if you pause after. So in general, if you want to increase muscular tension, that's a lot of inhales. And if you want to decrease muscular tension, you want to focus on a full exhale with a pause. Now, when it comes to exercise and doing strenuous things, there is a debate as to whether one should hold their breath or whether they should exhale with effort. And in general, the answer is probably it depends. When we're doing a very, very high effort, where say you're lifting 85% of your max effort of like a weight or more, so 85% or more, you're nearing your 1 rep max. When you're putting that much tension through your body for a single repetition, you have to hold your breath. It's reflexive. The body has to be able to use all that it can in order to keep you steady, in order to produce the leverage to accomplish that movement. So breath holding is going to happen, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. The thing is if you're doing multiple repetitions of any sort of movement, by and large, you got to breathe. So the general rule would be exhale with effort. However, you want to make those exhales work for you. And I've talked about this in other videos, and I'll link to those videos in the notes that are linked to this video itself. But in general, that's where some forced exhalation, getting your abdomen in order to engage, can be very, very helpful. All right, so if you're trying to just generally reduce bodily tension, if you're just trying to reduce muscular tension, what you want to take on is emphasizing full exhales with a pause. Now, in order to get a nice full exhale with a pause and elicit that relaxation response of our nervous system that will cause muscular tension throughout the body to be less and less, you've got to first take a deep inhale. You got to have something to exhale. And this has been spoken about a lot recently, and it's been called the physiologic sigh. And so this is a reflex that is inside any of us, where if you take a full inhale through the nose and then out through the mouth, 1 to 3 of those will be able to elicit reflexive bodily relaxation. Now, over time, you can just take a full inhale and then a full exhale. But for many folks, doing a double inhale can be helpful in order to get that stretch with the inhale, to get that much air in, to have something to sigh out. So in general, in through the nose, out through the mouth, 1 upwards of 3 of those will allow your body to reflexively relax. And as you couple that with what you're doing at your face and what you're doing at your hands, you have the best chance of reducing bodily muscular tension for whatever reason that you may have, whatever endeavor you may be taking on. All right, so in summary, what you do at different parts of your body can have an enormous impact on body-wide muscular tension. And the 3 main parts that you can focus on to have a really big impact are what you're doing at your hands, what you're doing at your face, and what you are doing with your breath. This video touched on some really basic and effective things that any of us can take on, but know that this really just scratches the surface at how much any of us can modulate bodily tone, muscular tone, by focusing on what is happening at these three places with these three things. So I hope it was helpful for any of you if you've struggled with muscular tension, if you struggled taking on different sort of physical endeavors at different shapes. I hope that you may be able to get something out of this video, and some of these pointers will help you achieve what you're looking to. Please do not hesitate to reach out if I can be of help in any way, shape, or form. Regardless, I hope you're feeling great, I hope you feel strong, and I hope you're well.